Welcome to Astrology in the Bible Part 2, Original Sin. In this video, we're going to go over even Adam's curses, birth and death, and conception and disintegration. Let's get into it. This wheel and everything on here that you see, we had to build over time, step by step, so you could understand why certain things are correlated. Otherwise, how do you know that Libra is associated with the West or that Aries is associated with the East? Now, in this video, we're going to talk about original sin, the biblical story, and the gate of men and the gate of the gods. It's important to study every sign in relationship to its opposite sign. One of the Hermetic principles is known as the principle of polarity, by the way. So we'll be talking more about that. Each of these 12 signs exists in relationship to its opposite counterpart, directly opposite from itself on the zodiac wheel. For instance, Cancer is directly opposite of Capricorn, as you can see here. Now, even though all of these signs exist in relationship to its opposite counterpart, there's 6 different pairs, and one of those pairs is foundational. It is the foundational axis, because that's what we call these pairs, an axis. It is the foundational axis of all of these different axes. Which one is it? Although Libra and Aries is very important, and one can argue that is most certainly a foundational axis equally, the one we're going to go over right now is the Cancer and Capricorn axis. As you can see, Cancer and Capricorn are the only 2 signs that touch the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Imagine that. And if you watched the previous video, you know that all life is happening between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. I'm going to break out my stylus here and start drawing a little bit. Now, from Cancer to Capricorn, light is decreasing, and from Capricorn to Cancer, light is increasing. So at 0 degrees Cancer and at 0 degrees Capricorn, tropical Cancer and tropical Capricorn, that is, these are the only 2 parts of the zodiac that represent pauses. Because when light is decreasing and hits the bottom and then has to start increasing again, it pauses. Opposite is true when the light is increasing, hits the Tropic of Cancer, and it stops for a second before it switches direction. Pretty simple stuff. So this is a lot like a breath. And this ties into some pretty deep esoteric stuff. It has to do with yoga. Not only just in this abstract way, metaphoric way. This really isn't abstract. This is pretty concrete. Light is decreasing and increasing every single day, except for those 2 points that I mentioned. Just like we're always exhaling or inhaling, and then we have the pause at the bottom and the top of the breath. Pretty simple. Not really metaphoric. That's pretty literal. But all life is happening between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, seasonally speaking. Life on Earth, growing of plants and trees losing their leaves. It's pretty important. But see, all life is also happening between the 2 pauses of your breath. And Cancer and Capricorn, being the only 2 signs that represent pauses, they also have a nickname. And we're going to get into that right now. And that nickname is known as, for Cancer, the gate of men, and for Capricorn, the gate of the gods. So the gate of men is associated with birth, and the gate of the gods is associated with death. And just like all life on Earth is happening between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, and just like all life on earth is happening between the two pauses of your breath. All life on earth is happening between birth and death. And everything that's born must die. And everything that dies must be reborn. Or at least recycled. So we'll go on to the next slide, and we're going to go over the gate of men first, the sign of Cancer. Now, you see here that, let me break out my stylus here. The sign of Cancer inserts itself into this blue half of the circle in the middle. This right here. Cancer is the representative of the whole entire light side of the zodiac. Why? Because 0 degrees Cancer is the longest day of the year. The first day of summer. 0 degrees tropical Cancer. And it is a cardinal sign. And it's a water sign. That's why it's blue. And it's ruled by the moon, if you haven't, or if you couldn't guess what that glyph is. It's ruled by the moon. Very important. So now we're going to fill in some blanks here. You know this is the gate of men. And the Lord of Cancer is the moon. And the moon's name is Sin. The ancient Akkadian name of the moon god, that is Sin. Don't take my word for it. So keep that in mind, because we are talking about original sin. And Cancer also represents the mother, as well as home and comfort, the nurturing quality and protection. And since it's the 4th sign of the zodiac, it's the original placeholder of the 4th house. Now, some will argue, oh, the gate of men is 5 degrees Gemini, I read online, or something crazy like that. Look, let me break it down to you like this, very simply. The gate of men is your mom, is the mother, period. Cancer represents the mother. The moon represents the mother in astrology as well. All life on earth, at least animal life, human life for sure, you enter through this world through your mother. Unless you were artificially inseminated somehow, or grown in a test tube or some shit. But no offense to anybody who, may have been born that way. The point of this video is that the woman is the gate of men. Period. Period. Get it? So, in the Bible, Eve, the story of Eve in Genesis 3:16, her curse after eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge, her curse was that she would have to give birth. That's where it all began. The first woman and the first man in the garden started with Eve and Adam. And she was the first mother. And her curse was associated with the pains of giving birth. Very, very important. And why? Because this is known as original sin. And this is going to get way deeper here in a second. We're going to go really deep here. So, Cancer is known as the gate of men. In astrology, it's associated with the mother, as well as its lord, the moon. And the moon's ancient Akkadian name is Sin. And it just so happens to be a coincidence that Eve, the first woman, the first mother, her curse was birth. So, now we're going to go to the next slide. If you're finding value in this video so far, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon to be notified when I come out with new videos on occult and mystical topics. And there should be a link below this video where you can access not only the videos I have available on YouTube, but exclusive member-only content, including and not limited to more astrotheology or astrology in the Bible videos like this one. If you got any questions, feel free to leave me a comment, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And enjoy the rest of this video. And we're going to cover Capricorn. Capricorn is known as the gate of the gods. And the gate of the gods is associated with the opposite of birth, which is death. And I forgot to make mention that Cancer is also associated with conception, which is a little bit different than birth. It's the whole process of growing the child in the belly, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, we all enter this world through our mother, through conception, and eventually through birth. But anyways, the Tropic of Capricorn, 0 degrees tropical Capricorn is the very bottom. It represents the very bottom of the zodiac because it's the shortest day of the year. So just remember that, because that's going to be important here in a second. That's why Capricorn is an earth sign, and it's ruled by Saturn, and it's a cardinal sign like Cancer is, and it's attached to the dark side of the world, of the zodiac, I should say. So it's the representative of the whole dark side of the world. It's ruled by Saturn, and it's an earth sign. That's the most important thing you need to remember. And that it's the very bottom of the zodiac, so to speak, the shortest day of the year, where the sun sits lowest in the sky. Okay? Now, Capricorn is referred to as the gate of the gods. It's death. And it's ruled by Saturn, as I mentioned, which is the lord of agriculture. Saturn is the god of agriculture. And by the way, Lord is an astrological term that means ruler, like praise the Lord. Yeah. So add that to your list of coincidences. And the themes of Capricorn are father, karma, soil, toil, which is work, and death. And it's the original placeholder of the 10th house because it's the 10th sign. Well, guess what is a huge coincidence? Just a coincidence, nothing to see here. But the curse that's associated with Adam is that he would have to work the ground and basically only be able to sustain himself through the sweat of his brow until death. Genesis 3:17. If you haven't read it, I highly suggest you do so. So Adam is associated with work, the ground, as well as death. And that just so happens to be the exact same associations as Capricorn and Capricorn's lord Saturn. And see, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the lord of agriculture. But Capricorn is also an earth sign. Remember what I was telling you about Capricorn being the very bottom of the zodiac. And if I forgot to say that Cancer is the very top, that should be obvious because, we're talking about the northernmost point, Cancer, and the southernmost point, Capricorn, 0 degrees of both of these signs in their tropical placements that, represent the longest and the shortest days of the year. But Cancer is the gate of men, and we all enter this world through the gate of men. And we'll break out my stylus here again. So Cancer begins here. We're going to jump back to Cancer for a second. Cancer begins there, and then it descends. It begins to descend from its very beginning. That's why we descend through the gates of men. And the opposite is true. With Capricorn, we are at the very bottom here, 0 degrees Capricorn, and then as we go through the rest of Capricorn, we're ascending. So we ascend through the gate of the gods. We descend through the gate of men, and we ascend through the gate of the gods. Very important. Very, very important. And going back to Capricorn, Capricorn is not only ruled by the Lord of Agriculture, it is an earth sign. So that's like a double whammy for all of the themes associated with Adam working the ground. And Saturn rules work. That's what karma is, by the way. Performing your karma. Since Capricorn's the original placeholder of the 10th house, 10th house has to do with your career. But 10th house, what I'm trying to tell you is it's a lot bigger than that. It's a lot more all-encompassing. But what you need to be able to take away from here is that all the associations of Eve and Adam, as far as their curses go, birth and death, correlate exactly to the T with the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, or the Gate of Men and the Gate of the Gods. Unmistakably. And I will continue to pound away at so many coincidences, so many biblical coincidences. At some point, you'll have to decide if, these are coincidences or not. I don't claim to teach the truth. I just promise I won't purposely mislead you. Because all truths are but a half truth, so let all dichotomies be reconciled. Anyways, in our next video, after building upon this Cancer and Capricorn axis, the Gate of Men and the Gate of the Gods, we're going to get into the really juicy stuff. And the next video is all about the astronomical fall of man. You're not going to want to miss this. On to the next video, the fall of man. Click it right over here on the side of the screen.